It's the first video for a long time. Bought another canoe, 89 quid off eBay. Had a nasty crack in it, which I've repaired. It also had a broken keel piece as well, which I've removed. I will be replacing at some point. I need to like reshape the hull a bit. I think it's been sat for so long that it's kind of collapsed a bit, and it's probably had like some weight put on top of it perhaps. Apparently it was in storage for 23 years. So anyway, this is the plan. As you can see, I've removed the outer rubber strip, the fender strip, and then split it into its two parts. Anyway, so I've glued this lump of tannalised 4x3 in there. I've also put a few screws in there as well, just to make sure it never comes away from there, but it's pretty much, I don't think it's ever going to move. So then I've made these pieces on my bandsaw, a 10mm bolt there, and there, and then we'll have another one there and another one there. So that basically I'm going to have a pulley on here and a lead, and I'm going to have line steering and pulleys in the inside, so that I can lift this right up to this point so that it's fully clear of the water, so that I can run the canoe on the river in the very shallow sections. So it's going to be a powerful two-seater river canoe, a motorised river canoe. I've made some progress, although it doesn't look like a lot. Finished the sort of foundation for the motor mount, which is just going off there. Very little gap under there. I'll show you inside. Thread of a bit of 18mm ply, exterior grade. It's not marine ply or anything. I shall give that a really good coat of black. Piece of vinyl in there, glued and screwed on there. That's just to prevent the feet of the clamps digging too much into this wood. Oh, here's my mate Jeff. What?
I've got a few bits and pieces.
Mate.
What, this piece of wood? This?
What's in the middle of that?
Aluminium.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. I've glued that in there. It's a bit messy. I'll tidy up the glue a bit later, and it's fully cured. And I've pushed down this. I've made these like basically packers, and then I've got straps going from bottom to the top, and I've put a spacer in there and a brace across, and you can see I'm quite excited about this. It's kind of bummed me off when I saw it when I bought the canoe and I looked at it. That's pretty straight now. Base, reinforcing it, strengthening, stiffening up the whole thing. Got the aluminium pole in there, got some backrests and some bases for the backrests, which also form as braces. They're L-shaped. I've drilled big holes in so that the fiberglass bonds right down through each one. Obviously ran out of materials here, and I've got to finish this off. It's very rough. Right, I've just poured that about 300ml of resin into there and put a bit more fiberglass on top. I can see now I've missed a bit. Look, everything's covered in goop. I can go over it again, I suppose. Just don't want any air gaps. So it's very poor, really, to be honest. I'm no good at it. I hate doing it. I'll put a bit more in there as well. steering line there, steering line there. This is the raising line. I've sort of got this far with the rigging basically, so you've got your two steering lines, one there and one there. Let's go back into there. And then one main line for the lifting that goes to a pulley there, effectively that's a pulley. And then there's another pulley down there. And that means to raise this motor, which weighs approximately 10 kilograms, you need to put 2.5 kilograms, I think that's what it is, of force on that. I'm actually going to get my scales and see. There is a little bit of friction in the system because they're not real pulleys. But I've tried it with pulleys and it just doesn't seem to work very well. It's all just gets jammed up and the pulleys sort of flap over when they're not in tension. Eventually we'll need to put basically on this, will need to be a bungee there just to keep that so it never goes slack, to avoid it getting tangled up there. So that, I'll need to put a fixing point here for this counter line, well, the sort of anchor line for that pulley, but I can sort that out, that's no problem. Right, all my bits and pieces have arrived. I'm trying to figure out which battery to use. I've got a starter battery and a leisure battery. Right, this is the, I suppose, prototype slash work in progress tray for the battery. Whatever. Right, so we're getting there now. I've just spent a couple of hours finishing this thing off. Basically, switch there for on and off. So that's, and that's the feed off the battery goes right to that switch. So it's basically emergency power cut off basically. Right, we're pretty much ready to go. I've wired on this 4-pin 16 amp 240 volt plug. That's there. That can basically go against there like that. And then there's my lead for connecting from the front to the back of the boat. Right, here we are then. 0 hour has commenced. Right, don't forget, don't film it vertical.
No portrait filming.
Fall in. Keep filming.
Oh my gosh, look at that, you're steering.
So this is the first ever go with this boat. Obviously this is a trial.
Look at that.
I'm trying to see whether it's balanced,
works.
how it handles with the motor, whether the motor's too much for it. I was expecting it to be a bit more violent in terms of the thrust that it gives, but it wasn't too bad.
Works.
You could probably tip the boat over if you put the
Wow.
motor on full lock, 90-degree sort of steering lock, and crank the power right up. You'd probably tip you out of the boat, to be honest. So it needs some careful handling. But it goes up the river at 3 miles an hour against a 3 mile an hour current, so that's about right. The boat was balanced too heavy in the bows, so I pulled the battery pack backwards eventually, and I cranked the motor
It sits
shaft
nice in the
up 1
water.
notch just to angle the motor back a little bit, trim the motor
Yes,
back.
it is slightly lower. It is.
What else?
It is
There's a few
slightly
more
lower.
bits and pieces. The rigging wasn't perfect.
Yes.
I've got to think about the arm. The steering arm was too flimsy. It bent.
It's just
and
occasionally
the raising and
rail,
lowering
not very much,
was a bit
really.
sort of got a bit snagged. So I need to make sure that that's all working very reliably before I go on any serious journeys on it.
Leaning over more that side as well.
What
So
else
check
was
if
I
you're
going to say? Oh,
central.
cosmetics as well.
This plane.
I didn't mention in the video, I'd used polyurethane adhesive and glued all the two parts back together, and it glues so well that I just decided to use that for pretty much everything after that point. I'm glued on that metal plate with the wooden block, that was all glued on.
Just keep it really slow till you get the hang of it.
It's very strong stuff. I glued in all those little pipes that I ran the strings through. They were just stuck on with polyurethane.
Why don't you paddle in?
What else am I going to do? I've got to put a little cargo net on the front deck, I think, so I can put a bag there. Going to paint the whole thing green. Well, I made the edge trims using speed fit pipe, which is like a very flexible. It's sort of plastic pipe, and you bend it and it stays in position in terms of the plasticity of it. It's designed to sort of form round corners and stuff like that, so it's really good. I split that down with an angle grinder, opened it up and glued it on with that polyurethane. I'll need to do some more sort of filling and trimming and that sort of thing. Tidying, I've got to paint the whole thing. I'm going to paint it dark green so it blends in. Apart from that, I think we're going to be alright. It's going to be quite good fun. Can't wait to have a go on it properly, really. Jeff, it's your turn, mate. Here's a sort of little extra update, especially for you, Paul. I noticed that the edit that I put up there was a bit of a problem with the middle scene. One of the scenes got repeated a little bit, so I thought I'd add this little bit on. I took it down. I'm going to re-up it. I'll just show you what I did quickly the other day. You can see the boat has actually taken on a little bit of water. It's probably just sat on there. So this is just like flooring mats that I've chopped up, glued on there. It's all glued on with the trim bond spray adhesive. There's a bit of water in the bottom of the boat there. Probably, I think there was a little couple of leaks here and there. I think we'll flip it over at some point shortly and have a look and maybe do some repairs on the keel, because there was definitely one area that was cracked and it was flexing and it needs fixing really. And then here's a close-up of the pipe. I made a bit of a mess of that bit, but I decided probably wouldn't be a bad idea just to use a little bit of masking tape and get a nice tidy edge on that's that PU18 adhesive, and that is really strong. It's only glued on at the top. I might glue the bottom if I get the boat flipped over, but it's just that's that speed fit pipe I mentioned as well. So it's really good stuff. You can chop it, bend it, it stays in shape. I'll glue that on there. You wouldn't believe how strong that stuff is. It's only just clinging onto that and it won't go very far. And then this as well, I was going to say, I just put a little screwing eye into there, and then underneath there, I wanted to give you a close up of what I've done under there. It's a bit messy. But I thought, well, no one's ever going to see it unless I film it and put it on YouTube. It's pretty messy, but it's really strong. I don't think those pipes will ever come out of there unless somebody rips them out on purpose. And there, just a big blob of the stuff there. Same goes for that side. Those pipes, they ain't moving. They're pretty, you know, they're pretty secure. They are. They're secure enough anyway. What else? Oh, that's it. Yeah, so I'm going to rub the whole thing down a little bit on the top, give it some dark green paint I think on the top, fit a few more bits and pieces on it, brackets and whatnot for these canoe paddle holders, like I said, a net or something like that. I was thinking could even put a cheeky little searchlight on the front or something. That's the fun part.